Yeah, hello everyone. So in this session, we are going to see designing and implementing a dependency management strategy. So in the previous session, we have seen how to implement CI with GitHub Actions. So we know the Microsoft acquired GitHub recently, so that they have added GitHub also in their AZ400 curriculum. But the most of the things we are going to see related to Azure DevOps. Okay, so when it comes to dependency management strategy, for example, within the Azure DevOps, right? So there are many services like for agile planning, we have Azure boards, repos for hosting repositories, and CI/CD pipelines. That is for the Azure pipelines. So similar way, we have the Azure artifacts for managing the dependency management. Okay, so we'll see the agenda for today, and we'll get started. Yeah, so first we'll see some overview. Yeah, yes, Amos, are you saying
Yeah,
anything?
yes, hello. Yeah. Quick question is like yesterday recording I saw today before this call,
Okay.
and I was a little bit confused about like why are we including the GitHub and the Azure yesterday demo, right? So
Yeah.
what is the part of the GitHub?
Yeah, so for example, right, so Azure DevOps fully owned by Microsoft. Okay, and then
Mhm.
so that maybe you can just understand maybe so what are all the tools maybe the Microsoft is offering for CECD platform. Okay, so currently we know that Azure DevOps is the one tool. Okay, and then the GitHub also they recently acquired, right, so that they have added GitHub also, because the earlier it was the another tool only, so some other people's only they are managing it. So recently, as Microsoft is buying that one, so that they have added that GitHub one also in the curriculum. Okay, but anyway,
So
so
all the source code, right?
mm,
Whatever we had on the repo in the DevOps, so that source code will be on the GitHub, right? So is it the
yeah,
like
okay,
the high level pictures?
yeah. So maybe let's maybe just to compare both Azure DevOps and the GitHub. Almost okay. So in for initially, right, the GitHub is the just Git hosting platform only, hosting Git repositories. That's it. Okay. So similar way in our Azure DevOps, right, we have the Azure Repo service, right. So there we can create the repositories, Git repositories. Okay. But similar way in the GitHub also you can create one GitHub project, and under that you can have n number of maybe public or private repositories. Okay,
On the
and
GitHub. Okay.
yeah, and along with that, for example, you see, right, so for example in the pipelines, either in Azure DevOps we can go with visual designer, maybe the classic editor, maybe, or otherwise you can go with the Azure pipelines.yaml method also. Okay, for implementing the CI/CD, maybe we can
Okay.
specify the stages, jobs, and everything in the YAML file. So accordingly, the whenever the particular event is happen, so the triggering will be happen. So it will start the workflow of maybe build, test, and maybe the scanning, deployment, and all. It will be happen. So however we have written the script. Okay. So similar way GitHub. Okay, the in GitHub, right. So you can see like there is something like workflow folder, and under that you will see some YAML files. So in that you can see some kind of YAML descriptions. So that is almost equivalent to the Azure pipelines, and then maybe from the GitHub also they are providing the declarative approach to mention the DevOps pipelines. Okay, so initially the GitHub is just started for hosting just a repository, but even so, when the maybe when they are evolving, right, so they are giving the CI/CD solution also. So this is not only for GitHub, the GitLab, right, the GitLab also the same
Hmm.
thing. Okay, GitLab, Bitbucket, so everything they have started as the own the repository hosting platform only, and then they recently introduced the other CI/CD solution also.
Okay. So on the yesterday's demo from the Azure, you
Mm,
are calling GitHub, right?
yeah. So for example, in Azure, right? For example, we have one maybe feature called a DevOps starter. Okay, so for
Mhm.
example, you want to build some .NET Core application, and that you want to deploy it in the maybe AKS cluster or Azure App Service. Okay, so they will give the some template. Okay, with the template you can generate the project. Okay, and then maybe you have to store somewhere, right? At the time I'm choosing like you can store the sample the starter code like infrascript and everything you can store it in the GitHub, so that in my GitHub, right, I can see the maybe sample .NET application and ARM templates for maybe creating the infra resources, and then other the workflow file, right, it will be created. Okay, so whenever I'm starting it, so it will create the maybe the deployment in the Azure. Okay, so for example, I will open my GitHub account, so maybe you will get understand. So for example, this is the repository we have created
Yeah,
for the
yesterday I
yesterday's
saw
demo.
that.
Okay, for
Mhm. Yeah.
example, when I am for example, once I have chosen the template, right, the .NET and which Azure service, so based on that it will create some file and then it will add here. So for example, the ARM templates for creating the infra resource. Okay, so there I have chosen the Azure app, Linux web app for the deployment, right? So that what it will do is like the app instrumentation key is the maybe the for the monitoring tool, and similar way uh,
So this file is within GitHub, right? Like nothing on the GitHub repository itself.
yeah, so from that, for all the source code, right, we have to maintain in
Mhm.
the repository Git only, right? So that's why
Okay.
maybe the for yesterday's demo only we have chosen the GitHub. So based on the curriculum they have mentioned there, right? So that we have chosen the GitHub. But otherwise, right, we can do the same thing with Azure repos also. Okay,
Right.
so you can have
So
the
if I
yeah.
if I understand clearly, if in an existing company, if they have the repository in the GitHub, so
Mm,
that's what they're going to make use of the Azure, what is it, the DevOps starter or something. So
mm.
using that feature, they are like configuring the workflow within the GitHub.
Yeah, maybe that is correct. So, for example, right, for your company is very new to DevOps, okay? So they are asking you to create some application with .NET Core, and you want to deploy to the AKS, okay? At the time, right, you have to develop everything from scratch. For example, you are a DevOps engineer, you don't have any knowledge with the .NET or Java, any kind of application, okay? So that time you will be it will be harder for you, right? So that they will create some sample application and then they will provide some starter or boilerplate they will mention, right? So boilerplate means it won't have any much functionality, so it will have basic things, and then when you want certain things, so you want to edit the code, so you can do some customization from the basic one. Okay, so similar like
Mhm.
for example they have the GitHub workflow, and then they have the sample application like this is the .NET Core application with functional test also integrated, right? So so the sample application is there, and then ARM template is for creating the resources also there. Okay, and then they have added the pipeline also, the GitHub the workflow pipeline.
Okay.
Okay, so here they are mentioning how we need to run that, and so all the scripts stages, everything is here. Okay, but
Okay.
maybe when you are importing this maybe the repository in Azure, it won't work, because for example other thing, right? So for example the application and ARM templates, it is common for both Azure DevOps and GitHub. Okay, the .github workflow file, right, that is specific to only the GitHub actually. Okay, but if you want to do
Mhm.
for the Azure DevOps, at the time you have to choose Azure DevOps as the platform instead of GitHub, so that in that starter file configuration, right, they will create the Azure pipelines.yaml file. Okay,
Okay.
so earlier, so here they have maybe as we are choosing the GitHub, they have provided the this workflow file. But if you are choosing the Azure DevOps, but I'm trying to create the Azure DevOps also, but with our subscription, right? So earlier I'm able to create the maybe the starter project in Azure DevOps. I think for our subscription, right, we don't have a permission, I guess. So this is for learning only, right? So that
Mm.
maybe we are able to choose only the GitHub. Okay. So if you want to maybe try Azure DevOps, I think there are many GitHub repositories there, so that we can try. Or otherwise, maybe if you can try with any of your maybe company subscription, right? At the time you can see that you can see the maybe Azure DevOps also one of the option, so that all the repositories, everything, right? Instead of saving the code in GitHub, you will be having the option to mention Azure DevOps also. Okay. But anyway, so
Okay.
maybe
Yeah.
having the understanding of both the tools, right? Maybe it will be good only. So for example, when you know some maybe one or two tools, so then you can easily visualize other tools also, maybe the GitLab, Bitbucket, right? So that one also the same thing. So nothing from the concept wise, nothing difference. But apart from that, it's everything same. For example, here that only the change is the YAML format, right? So maybe the Azure pipelines.yaml file, they will be having some different format, and here they are following some other the keyword and everything they are following in the different format. Okay. So for example, there
Mm.
we will be talking about the variable, but here they are talking about environment variable. But maybe so the concept wise it would be same only. Okay. And then
Okay.
from that Azure pipelines we will be saying like trigger. Okay. But here they are saying like on maybe the on block, and inside that they are saying like a push trigger. So the push trigger, it will be only for the master branch. But anyway, the concept same, right? So there we are just
Yeah.
accomplishing the same thing with the trigger, but here they are following some other YAML scheme or something.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
How you define or design within the YAML is different.
Yeah, yeah. So because, right, so for example, the GitHub, so they might create the pipeline with their own idea, because that's not the common thing, right? So for example, Azure
Mm.
pipelines also. So otherwise, right, they will be facing the maybe it will be if both of the format everything is same, then we can maybe even the Azure DevOps also they will suit a case on GitHub, because they have copied everything
Mm.
from us, so that they will make some kind of changes basically. So for example, when you take the Oracle and maybe the SQL Server as the database, right? So both of them, they have stored the data in table only. Okay, the table, trigger, and view, every concept is same. Okay. But only the keyword, right? So they will, instead of maybe so some of the keywords only it might vary, like creating the stored procedure, and here they will calling like PLSQL. But almost, right, so everything is same. For example, AWS, Azure also the same thing. And here, like in this CI/CD tool, right, the Azure pipeline and Bamboo and GitHub, GitLab, Travis CI, so everything almost the same concept. Okay. So when the particular event
Okay.
is
Yeah.
happen, you want to trigger some kind of job, so it will accomplish some kind of actions, that's it.
Got it.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks, hello.
Yeah.
Sorry for taking the
No,
time.
no, no, no problem.
Yesterday after seeing the video, that's what like I was thinking like, okay, why do we need to do this one? So now at least
Okay,
I got
okay.
an idea.
Yeah,
Thanks.
anyway, right. So this today's session, right, the dependency management. So I think it won't take much time actually, so that we can take others time also, because the dependency management, everyone, maybe even the developer also, you know already.
Mm.
For example, you have created the maybe the MVC project. Okay. So for example,
Mm.
if they are asking you to create some web application, we are not developing anything from the scratch, right? So we are reusing some kind of dependency or framework, and from there only we are developing our application, so that whatever the maybe you are starting on top of the maybe MVC framework. Okay. So for the MVC framework, Microsoft providing so many libraries, frameworks, and all. Okay. So that framework is called maybe the dependency, And also, right, so sometimes we will be using Microsoft hosted dependency, and even, right, so sometimes other dependency also we will be using. For example, the third party company also, they will be maybe pushing some libraries, so that one also we will be leveraging it. And in some scenario, for example, in your own project, right, you will be creating some class library, and that library consumed by maybe the multiple teams also. For example, so let's say if you are working on some enterprise client, okay, so you know the holiday service, okay, there may be there maybe you can consider like they are banking. So you want to know, so in each and every application, right, they need to know the holiday, maybe whether the particular day is holiday or not in your region or not. So based on that, they will trigger the batch or something, so some kind of logic they would do. Okay, so in the scenario, so for example, they cannot maybe create the code for the holiday, maybe the service for every team, right? So that would be something like duplication. So what they will do is, like, from the company standpoint, so they will just create one library, and then they will ask other teams to consume it. So similar, like you will be consuming like the Newton soft JSON, right, for maybe the reading JSON and all. Maybe in the .NET I know. So that is the one important library. So similar, like you will be just consuming it. Okay. So
Mhm.
yeah. So that is the one we are going to see today, Amos. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Right.
Yeah. So for example, in the .NET, we know the NuGet and the new package. So that is the format. Maybe we'll see. Maybe when it comes to DevOps, right, there are many technologies for all the languages. We should be aware of something. Okay. For the Java, how they are doing, and then the React and how they are doing. So some kind of basic idea. Okay. So for example, the
Mhm.
overview we are going to see, and then the package format. So for example, what is there in the .NET and Java and React and yeah, maybe the Python, how they are doing. So that's some overall idea. And then the registry. Okay, so the package dependency management, everything and all, right, it will be comes under the artifact, maybe registry, because there only you will be pushing a repository there. Okay, so for example, maybe in the company standpoint, right, so for example, they might use different tools. Maybe for example, they might use Azure DevOps with the Azure Artifact. And in my scenario, right, so they are using Bitbucket plus Sona type Nexus, and even other teams they would use JFrog also. So that, yeah, that may be the differ based on the maybe the company, the tool they have using. And then the next one is the package management solution tool. So what are the current tools in the market for accomplishing this goal, and then how we are doing the versioning. And for example, the package management, right, so from the Azure side, they are providing Azure artifacts. So maybe the some demo we will see that. And yeah, so the next one, overview. Okay, so for example, the dependencies, hope you know that. So for example, for whatever the project, maybe the solution we are creating, under that there can be many projects. And for each project, right, it will depends to some other library. Okay, for example, so Amos, you can tell me, so what is your current project like? Maybe how you will install the dependencies from the Nugget repository or something.
For the .NET projects, like, yeah, one of the thing is like maybe from the tool from the Visual Studio itself,
Mm.
we can do it.
Yeah.
And what are all the other ways we can do? Some of the JavaScripts we can install
Mm.
as a dependency.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, Amos. Yeah, thank you. So, for example, right? Yeah, maybe as you said. So, from the within the Visual Studio itself, I think there will be option for Nugget, and maybe when you are searching the maybe the dependency there, so it will try to search. It will try to get the results from the Nugget public repository. Okay, and maybe there you are choosing the corresponding one, maybe from the results you are choosing the correct one and then you are installing it. Okay, so that when you are installing, right, I think it will modify something in the project file also, like, so this is the artifact you are using and this is the version, so something it will specify. Okay, and maybe, right, in another one more cases also, maybe even you don't need to for within the project also you can for example, in your solution, right, if you can have the multiple project, so one is the class library, the two project is the class library project and another one is the API project. Okay, so from that API project you can consume the other parallel class library project also, so that the only one thing is, when before building the API project you have to build the class library project, and after that automatically the API project it will get the latest uh, the class library, so that one also one way. Okay, so for example this is all for the for example if you are downloading from the Nugget, right, so all of them are from the public repository, so it will be fetched from the public repository. And for example if you want to mention something within your for within your team or within your company, so for example you are creating some project and that you want to be shared with your peer developers or something, so maybe how we can do that. Okay, so in those scenarios what we will do is, like, we will find what are all the dependencies in our project, maybe let's say the holiday service is the one of the example, and then we will create some class library, and then you will be pushing it to the some kind of centralized solution where everyone within your organization will have access to that. Okay, and maybe from the maybe the Nugget source, right, you will be adding the maybe I don't know, maybe the earlier you won't be editing any kind of the public URL, but the once you, if you want to maybe the pull from the private registry, right, at the time what you have to choose, like you have to open you have to update the Nugget settings, like along with public repository, so you have to consume the packages from the another the private registry also. So there we have to just to provide the JSON file path, and maybe once we have saved the particular settings, from the next time onwards, right, so when you are searching something it will try to get the results from the both the maybe the registry, one from the public registry and another one is the private one. Okay, so that is the dependencies actually. Okay, so from the dependency management strategy, so for example in your so we will be just mentioning in our class file or solution file, and so the standardization means, so we will be specifying the package, the details, the package management, the details will be mentioning in the file, so that whenever we are building or the restoring the packages, so based on the registry it will point and then it will get the registry maybe the packages from the internet or something. So similar way, for example from the Java world and all, so we will be having the pom.xml. Okay, so there like project management or package management file something, so there for example you will be specifying the list of dependencies and along with the repository information also from where we have to look up. Okay, so that maybe when you are maintaining some separate file, so when you are checking the source code to the maybe the repository, you can just maybe mention the package dependency information alone, so that when some other maybe pushing maybe cloning into their local machine, and then when they are trying to build, so at the time they can also get the same maybe the dependency set as like you, so that we don't want to bundle the package management or everything when we are checking the code. We just want to provide the source code alone, maybe the source code alone, and along with what are all the packages we are using. So with this information, whoever setting up the local setup, they can just run the maybe the .NET restore from the Java, and for example in the Java sorry the .NET restore for the .NET application, and maybe for the Java application, right, so we can just use like maven clean install, so those commands it will install all the dependencies for the application, so that exact behavior it will be happen for the both of the system. But the only one thing is you have to so you have to use the same framework. So for example, so in your application, right, you will be using the .NET. Maybe in your application, you will be installing .NET Core 2.1. Okay, the same framework he also needs to be installed in his machine. So then only. Maybe whenever he installing something, and then whenever he trying to build and running in the local environment, so that we can set up the some same identical behavior. Okay, so Amos, maybe you can tell me now, maybe for example, from where you are maintaining the source code and what are all the files you are pushing it to the repository.
So actually, the development itself, we have a virtual machine. So on the virtual machine only we are doing it. So my laptop will be like a thin client. So
Mm,
I connect to the machine, because this is what in the past we have seen, right? Like when a developer leaves, and then after like 1 or 2 years, when we are going and trying to access the source code, right?
mm,
So at that time we might not be having the same dependency or same version what that developer was using.
mm,
So that became like a cumbersome like in the past. So that's the reason like we started using the centralized server itself. And
mm,
the source code along with the bin files also we upload, and that's all on the Azure repo. So even like the past 4 or 5 years we have been using the Azure repo. So
mm.
just for the repo standpoint, but I haven't used anything like a Git or anything, but using this Visual Studio itself, I was doing the check-in and check-out. So
Oh,
that's how I was managing the source control.
okay. So for example, I think then maybe still you are using the some source control tool, but that is in the local itself. You will be maintaining everything in the local, so you are not pushing to any kind of maybe the centralized repository or something. But still you are managing with the local itself, so that you can see the commit everything there.
Yeah, from the local to the Azure repo.
Okay, so Azure repo. So still, so you have the access to Azure DevOps also then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay.
In my office, like that's what, like for past 4 or 5 years I am using it. But I have a different question, but I don't want to take much of your time
No,
here,
no, no,
so
no.
maybe
You can, yeah, you
I'll
can
send you
ask.
some.
Yeah.
Yeah, on my office thing, right? Like I don't see all the options what I am seeing it on this the training setup what I did. So
Okay.
maybe
Yeah,
one
maybe.
day when you're free,
Yeah,
maybe
maybe.
I can share
Hmm.
the screen.
Yeah, maybe what I'm thinking, like, for example, in your office, maybe they may be using maybe the on-premise version of Azure DevOps server. So, for example, we are using the cloud version, right? So that it will be same for everyone. But maybe if the GUI or everything is different, means maybe they will be using the licensed one. I don't know. Even the licensed one also, there won't be any much difference. And maybe
Yeah,
are
maybe
you
outside this class sometime I will set up something, and then I can share my screen and we can
okay?
go
Okay.
through that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, Amos. No
I don't
problem.
know. Maybe I might not be having all the options, or
Maybe the
from the
role.
beginning. This is like a 5 6 years before we have set this up, right? So I don't know.
Mm,
Like at the time we turned on all the options, or maybe the options are now available by that time. Like when we did this initial setup, that might not be there, and we are not using any Git or anything. So
mm,
that's what, like now after starting this training session, right? Like that's what, like I was now going through the Git also to see how I can do the source control management using the Git commands, those kind of stuff. So maybe someday I'll set up something
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so we can
Okay, Amos. Yeah.
go.
Yeah. So, for example, so what I'm trying to say, like the best practice, right? Maybe we should not push the like object bin folder and all, maybe to the Git repository. Maybe if you're doing that is fine. But for maybe the best practices wise, maybe we should not push anything related to the artifact and all in the source control. So from the source control, right? So we have to just to make sure that only the source code is there, and along with that maybe the package related information, so that will be there in the .cs project, or so within the project file we will be having, right? So that information we need to have. But maybe if we can have the object bin or something, right? So for every time when you are changing the maybe the release version number, for example, earlier you might be using the maybe the ASP.NET.web, the particular library, right? You will be using 1.5 version, okay? But then later, right, if you are using the 1.6, it will showing the dependency in the multiple places, okay? For example, the 1.4, it will refer some of the other libraries. And if you're saying, if you're just migrating to 1.5, maybe they will add new maybe the libraries, and then they might duplicate some of the existing libraries, right? So that maybe if you are just making maybe like a 3 point, maybe just versioning in the cs project, so that is fine. Maybe, yeah, maybe we can see that one yeah, later, okay? So for
Yeah.
example, identifying dependencies. So for example, let's take one example. For you are just doing the some CRUD operation with maybe the SQL Server database. So okay, so our ASP.NET web application, but maybe you can see like the what are all the dependencies. So for example, I'm creating the web application on .NET Core 2.1 something, and so that is my framework. So I need to have that one. And apart from that, so there may be some system libraries I need to use for debugging and logging purpose, and and other so the purging the objects, right? The unusable the objects at the runtime. So there are some libraries we have to use default, and then there's some specific goals, right? The libraries you want to connect to the SQL server, and then you need to insert or update anything, right? So at the time you might be going to the entity framework, or the maybe the ADO.NET. So those also some kind of libraries. Okay, so in this case, the ADO.NET and entity framework and all, it's some kind of libraries. It is depending on your project. Okay, so the similar way for the .NET and sorry, the JavaScript application, Python and Java. So all of them, so they will be having some reusable libraries, and based on the usage, we will be just using that particular library in our project. So maybe you already know that. So what is the dependency and the libraries and the frameworks and all. Okay, but here the only the thing is like, so for example, if you are having the own framework or the own library, how we can achieve that? If you are just utilizing the third part, maybe the third party one, so that you can just install it from the public or the from the internet. And maybe if you're having the own some kind of library or something, so how we can do that? So in this case only will be going to use the yeah, maybe the azure artifact. Okay, so for example, the package format. So for example, maybe the nugget, npm, maven, pypy and docker helm, right? Maybe I should not add the docker here. Maybe the docker, maybe the image it is fine, but I should not include docker. Okay, so the nugget is for the .NET based library. So whenever you are for example, if you are creating the maybe the class library as the project type, right? So that whenever you are building that application, you will be getting the .nupkg some with the kind of extension, you will be getting the file. So that is your nugget package. So maybe that one, maybe you can refer to other solution, or otherwise you can push it to the repository, maybe the artifact registry or somewhere, and from where the other team also they can maybe they can use it. Okay, so and other one more thing also, for example, if you are maybe contributing something to the open source, so you can create some kind of new library, and then you will be able to push it to the public nugget repository also. But mostly we won't try it, but that one also, because that is just like a registry only. Like if there is any open source thing, you can do that. Okay, but for our company purpose, right, for our company specific library something, that we should not maybe push it to the public one, because the others they can know our application how we are doing. So those kind of things and all, right, we should not do that. But if that is something like the open source one, you can push it so that you can say like how many downloads per week, whether that is really useful to the community or not. So that thing and all you can see that, but we cannot use the public one for our company purpose. So because our company, the business and logics and all the others also, they can know that. So that's not the goods to the company, so we should not use that. Okay. And for example, npm, so the npm is for example the node package manager. So for example, this is for the node based application. So when I'm saying like a node based application means it can be the node.js, the api one, and another one is like a modern javascript application framework. So let's say something like the angular, react, and other one maybe the vue.js, right? So those and all the front end application only. But for to build and maybe manage the packages, everything, we need the npm. Okay, the node package manager. And for example, basically, right, so here we will be running the .NET restore for resolving the dependencies. Okay. And for example, in the node or the javascript kind of application, they will be having the package.json in the root project file, and there they will be mentioning so axios, this is the library for the http client, like I need the 2.5.5, this is the version. Okay. So similar, like all the libraries they will be mentioning in the package.json file. And if they are mentioning the npm install, what it will do is like uh, it will try to get the package.json, and based on the dependencies we have mentioned in the file, it will try to get from the public repository, and then it will download in our local machine. Okay, that is for the npm. And similar like maven also. So the maven for the java, right? So this is the repository, maybe whatever the for example in the java, right, the most popular one is like the spring boot, spring cloud related frameworks and all. So it will be available in maven. So based on our usage, we can do that, we can download and configure in our we can add as the reference in our project. Okay. And similar like py, and this is for the python. And I should not include the docker, maybe the docker helm or something. The helm is for the kubernetes package manager. So if you are deploying some application in the kubernetes, so at the time for example, the helm is having some kind of structure for managing for all the resources, for all the objects in the kubernetes, like services, config map, and part. Maybe there are many configuration in the kubernetes, so that could be the different topic. But for just for an example, you can just understand like from the kubernetes you will be having the many objects, and to version that one, so you need to use the helm package manager. So most of them, the helm is the uh, like open source tool only. So with that, yeah, we can achieve some we can version the kubernetes application, so that versioning would be easy. For example, the reverting and rollbacking and all, it will be easy. But that is not coming under the application. So these and all, right, the nugget, npm, maven, py and all, it will be comes for the like a development one. The helm is for the deployment side only, it will come, like maybe the managing the kubernetes related one, the kubernetes itself, the deployment platform, right? And so there it will version the particular result set, like part, container, and then the config map, secrets, and services, and replica set. There are many objects. So it will group, and then it will version the particular one. So for example, if there is any issue, so they can just revert back to the previous set, so that we don't need to worry. So this is the configuration we need to change, and this is the services we need to change. So those kind of worry and all we don't need to have when we are using the helm. Okay. So Amma, so you have any doubts on this one? Maybe the NuGet, but similar concept only for the npm, for the node
Mhm.
based application. And for the java, it's for maven, and python for the py, and then helm is for the deployment, the kubernetes package manager.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the next one, right, the registry. So whenever, for example, the artifact repository, right? So mostly we will be using the public one. So there are two kind of registry. one is the public and another one is the private one. And for example, so the most of the time, for example, the enterprise based application team, they would use the private registry. So for example, let's take the Maven registry, right? So still it is allowing the free maybe the libraries and all, so we can just consuming it, and then we can develop the application on top of the framework and libraries and all. Okay, but here the one of the challenges, right? We don't know all the third party application available in the public registry, right? All of them are safe or not. Okay, if you're a startup, I think they will just go with that. But the banking kind of application, right, what they will do is like they will scan all the libraries in the public one, and then they will be put the same snapshot copy in the private registry. Okay, so whenever we are downloading any kind of libraries, right, it will first so it will just check with the private registry only. And if that particular libraries maybe the if they maybe if the company make it the particular library as allowed to download, at the time we can do that. So if it is something like a very vulnerable kind of library, so they won't copy the same thing in the private one, so that we cannot use that. Okay, so for this setting up the private registry, right, for example, they can go with any many solution, like they can go with Azure Artifact or the JFrog or Nexus. Okay, so you can just generally understood, like for example, there are two things, private and public. And for the public, maybe all the third party or open source libraries will be there, and there they will be published. And for example, in the private, right, within the company standpoint, so all the libraries they will be managing in the centralized location. And we have to download the library from the particular location only, particular private registry only. So if you are trying to access from the Maven repository or the from the public one, right, so they will block it. So that is why, so before doing anything, we have to set up the proxy and all, right. So if you are before doing the setup, you need to first configure the proxy, so that when the request is going through the proxy, they will block the communication from the outside the third party library setup. So they will just allow you from the private registry that is managed by your own organizations, so that you can always get the correct library set, so it won't have the any kind of vulnerability. And for initially they will first scan it, and then they will put it in the private registry. And even what they will do is like they will implement some caching in between, before the in between the our local machine and then the private registry, right. So for example, you will be having the hundreds of teams will be there. If everyone is accessing the system, maybe the system.web, so for some kind of library, right, if everything is every time it is downloading from the server, means it will slow down the maybe the performance. So that in between they will implementing the caching, so that it will download from the caching straight away, so it won't download every time from the server. So that will make the slowdown to the artifact repository. Okay, so like you can understand, like the private public is there. Okay, maybe from the Maven, right, maybe I don't know, maybe the same cases for the .NET or other library set also. For example, how they will manage is like a local repository, remote repository, and central repository. Okay, so for example, when you are downloading, for example, I am trying to download the Spring Cloud framework in my local machine. Okay, so for example, first it will try to look up the particular library from my local repository. So I think for example, in your cases also, right, for example in the Visual Studio also, the Nugget also, they will maintain some local repository in the, I think the app data folder or somewhere. Okay, so they will maintain all the libraries there also. So whenever you are using some kind of library, right, so it will try to first get from the local machine itself. So there they will be maintaining small lightweight repository, and then it will, if it is exist, then it will be copied it will be used for your application also. But if suppose it is not there, then only it will be routed to the remote repository. The remote repository means like it is equivalent to the private registry. It is managed by your organization. Okay. And so it will go there, and then if it is there, it will download it. But and the central repository, they will be blocking, they will be blocking it. So for example, it is equivalent to the public registry. So they will say like maven central. The maven central means it is the public maven repository. Okay, most of the time they will be blocking it. And so maybe the every week or something, right, if there is any new version of libraries coming, so they will first do the scanning. And if everything is okay, then they will be moving the library to the remote repository. And from there onwards, the developer, they can consume it, and then they can utilize it. Okay. And another one is like for every tool, right, for example the Helm, the Sonatype Nexus and JFrog, they will be having the two versions. One is the open source version and commercial version. And so for example, when you are going with the open source version, right, you will be having the some minimal features only. So when you are going with the commercial one, so they will be providing the features related with the enterprise level management related features and all they will be having. So for example, if you want to work with maybe the JFrog, right? So they will be providing the two features. The one is the open source one, and another one is the commercial. Okay, and same like, right, for example, when you are taken the Bitbucket, one of the source code repository, right, they are having the free version and as well as the enterprise version. So enterprise the version is the commercial one, so that you have to pay some amount, and additionally you will be having some more capabilities and all. So you can easily take the backup, and then you can integrate the Active Directory, and then you can easily manage the access control, so that they will be providing some extra features also if you are going with the licensed one. Okay, for all the registry the same thing, like open source and commercial registry will be there. Okay, so Amos, if you have any thoughts or doubts or something, yeah, we can discuss now.
No, Salam, I'm fine.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So currently, right, the package management solution. Okay. So earlier we have discussed what kind of uh, so what are all the package format and is there. So now we can see what are all the package management solution. Okay. So for example, Azure Artifact is the one of the service from Azure DevOps to manage all the dependencies, like all the libraries. Okay. So similar like the Sonatype Nexus, JFrog, Helm and all. Okay. So for example, the Sonatype Nexus earlier they have created just for the Java one, and then they have the recently, right, so they are maybe they are extending the capability to support the .NET and Node and Python related maybe the libraries also they will be supporting it. Okay, the only one thing is like we have to refer the Sonatype Nexus URL, and we have to specify what is the maybe the library name and what is the library version we need, like 1.0.0. And then it will construct the path, maybe the query path something, and after that it will go to Sonatype, and then it will just say check whether the 1.0.0 is there or not something. Okay, and if it is there, then it will download. So these are all the popular package management solutions currently. And from the Azure Artifact also they are using it. The one of the main thing is like, I think still the Azure Artifact is not supporting the Docker registry. So for example, you know, right, the Docker hub and all. So there we can push our images, the Docker images. Okay. So if you want to set up some kind of the private, the Docker registry setup, so it is possible with Sonatype Nexus and JFrog, but I think they are the Azure Artifacts. They are not providing the support to the Docker images, but still we can do the Maven and Nugget and the Node npm, right? So those and all possible with the Artifact, but I think the registry only it is not possible. But if you want to use the Azure registry, right, at the time we can use the Azure Container Registry. There is some other paid services from the Azure cloud, so that we can utilize it. So I don't know, maybe since they have a separate service for container registry, they are not supporting with the Azure artifacts maybe. Okay, the Helm is the package manager. So these are all the popular package management solutions. Okay, so you are good with that, right, Amos?
Yeah. Yeah. Fine.
Okay, so the next one is the versioning strategy. Okay, so for example, for all the versions, right, there will be the two versions. One is the release version, and another one is the snapshot version. Okay, so for example, if you are going with, maybe if your project is very lightweight and small one, maybe you don't need to maintain the two versions and all, like release version, snapshot version. Maybe for example, if the 20 members team, okay, and then all of them working on a separate microservices, and maybe the for all the 20 microservices, right, at least some of the functions and some of the common things would be there, so that they cannot, they don't want to maybe the duplicate in the all the 20 microservices. Instead they will write some single library, and they will be inherit in the 20 microservices. Okay, so for example, you are doing some kind of maybe the some logic to get some maybe the file information. Okay, for example, during your library development, right, so you have to provide some version. So at the time what you will do is like, you will be creating maybe you will be pushing the library in the snapshot version, which means like it is not the completed one. Okay, like still the development is going on, and still it is not verified. So for example, otherwise, right, maybe the for every application, right, they will be providing the two version, like the release version, and another one is the latest version. Okay, so the latest version means it is not fully verified, even there can be some issue with that one. Okay, because it is not fully verified. So that is the snapshot version, and then it is the latest one. The release version means it is fully, the development is completed, and then the testing verification also completed. Okay, so what mostly we will do, right, so for example, let's say like in the microservice development environment, the 20 team is developing their own service, and then the library also, right, we have to constantly update, for example, the method constant or something, we have to update it. Okay, so then for example, for the lower environment, right, for let's say like dev and QA environment, you can be deploying with the snapshot version. Okay, when if you are specifying the snapshot means, maybe it can be overridden. Like overridden means like for example, the version is something like 109 snapshot. Okay, which means like whenever you are running the class library build, for every time the latest build will be overridden the particular build itself. Okay, so but for example, if you are mentioning the release version like 109, okay, so if you are running with the same version again, it will fail because it can't override. If you are making some changes, you have to go with the new version only, something like 1010. Okay, like for example, otherwise, right, so for example, if I want to create a version, new version for every code change, it will be the cumbersome for managing that one. And also like for all the microservices, the referring the particular library, right, they need to update the maybe the version also. So that is the complex process. Okay, so when they are doing the dev and the lower environment deployment, sometimes at the time they can go with the snapshot one. And once we are going to the UAT means we have verified code and all the functionalities would be completed. At the time you have to create the release version, and all the reference in the microservices, right, you have to mention the release version name. Actually the release version you have to mention, and with that only you have to build your API project, and then you have to deploy it in your maybe the UAT and production environment. Okay, so now you understood the difference between the release version and the snapshot one, right, Amos?
Yeah.
Okay, and then yeah, so and then the immutable nature. So immutable means we should not edit the any kind of maybe after the library is created, we should not edit that one. So for example, the last time also we have discussed, right? For example, we have the changes in only one library, okay? So that we cannot, maybe we cannot copy the latest library, and we should not paste that into the uh, maybe the particular bin folder or somewhere in the release folder. So we should not do that. For example, we don't know even still we can do that because we will have a full control, but we are not sure like whether it will correctly work or not. So for example, for every code change, we have to run the build, and the with the latest library, you have to reference in your maybe the microservice project or the API project, and then you have to build your API project also, and then it has to compile, and you have to test it locally, and if it is everything is fine, then you can push it to the QA, or maybe the further environments you can promote to the further deployment. Okay, so that is what the immutable nature. And then the semantic versioning, that one we have already discussed. For example, how we are managing the version basically. So for example, maybe the most of them, the different, mostly for each team, right? And each company also, they will be following their own format. But when it comes to the versioning, I think this is the popular one for among all the developers and the companies under, like the major minor patch, something like, for example, you are developing some kind of library, and this is the first time you are releasing it to the production. Okay, so something like at the time you can mention like maybe the 1.0.0. Okay, and after that you are making some bug fixes so that you can update the release version like 101. Okay, and after that you are adding some minor maybe the maybe some kind of feature you are adding, so that it's not impacting whole the down, maybe the the earlier version, maybe the code, so that you can mention like 1.1.0. And maybe if you are making some broken changes with the previous version, so at the time you can mention like 2.0.0. So if you are mentioning the versioning something like that, so it will be very easier to maybe understand. And also if there is any scenarios, right? For example, the rollback or something, so you can say like okay, so I am reverting from 2.0.1.2 2.0.0, so that there won't be any much impact. So there can be some issue with some styling, or some kind of small minor bug fixes, something. So that is maybe allowable, maybe. So those kind of business decisions, if you are following the versioning strategy in this format, yeah, that will be easy to get that one. So almost you're good with that round, right? The semantic versioning.
Yeah, even yesterday we saw on the YAML file the same thing, right?
Yeah, YAML one, I don't know, maybe the
Yeah.
yesterday or the day before yesterday or something.
Maybe day
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
day before yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. For example, from the YAML, right? I think mostly there, maybe we won't say any kind of versioning. Maybe I don't know. Maybe the build version we might see that one. For example, the build
Yeah.
number, build name, right? Yeah. During the
Mhm.
time we might see that semantic versioning. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the build version, the release version. So I think most of them we can use the semantic versioning format. Okay.
Mhm.
So next thing, right, we will just see the demo. So how the Azure artifacts we can create the feed, and how we can, so when we are running the build, right, so how we can push that artifact to the particular feed, and from what is the settings you have to make from the Visual Studio to download the feed from the Azure artifacts to your Visual Studio. Okay. So for
Mhm.
example, this is some example repository earlier. So this is the .NET Core library. Okay, so just having some model something, and after that, yeah. So it's just a library, right? So we just want the code for creating the library, and the next one is like we want to push it to the Azure artifacts. Okay. So for example, here already one I have created, so I can delete this one. Uh, Okay, so for example, so first we have, so this is the artifact. So to manage all the libraries, right? The maybe the shared library something. So to manage it within the artifact, we have to create the feed first. Okay, so for example, I'm choosing the feed and I'm naming it mm, shared library. Okay, and I think here some visibility who to whom we can have access something. Maybe I can, maybe if individual people's means I can provide the access also here. And upstream sources include package from common public source from the internet also, it will allow nugget.org, right? So basically, right, so for example, whenever you are trying to access the maybe trying to download the library from the Visual Studio, it will try to look up this site only. For example, when we going to the nugget.org. So for example, here you can search actually the Newton, I think newtonsoft.json, I
JSON
guess.
soft.
Yeah. So the correct, right? The newtonsoft.json, or maybe the
I don't know.
package
It's
name. Yeah.
Newton
Yeah.
JSON
Yeah.
soft, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe, for example, if you're searching something JSON or Newtonsoft, I think you will maybe get the suggestions in the Visual Studio itself. So I think basically, right, it will try to look up the libraries from this internet, this public site only. Okay, so maybe earlier, I don't know whether you know this one or not. So do you know, Amos, from where the library is downloaded, the nugget.org or something? Because basically it will download from this place only, from the Visual
Mm-hmm.
Studio. And if you want to download from my feed, right, so what you have to do is you have to create the feed. Okay, like I'm giving like shared, and after that it is already exist. Okay, .NET shared live. Okay, I'm just creating it, and after that, right, for example, I am clicking on connect to feed. If it is the .NET, what I should do, Nugget, what I should do, Visual Studio, what I should do. So they are giving some suggestions, right? So I can
Mm-hmm.
see this one, and what we have to do is options, Nugget package manager, package source, and there you have to provide this name. I think this name we can provide the other one also, but you have to copy this path. You have to configure this one as the source here. So can you share your, so you have the Visual Studio installed, right, Amos? I don't
Mm-hmm.
have this
Yeah.
one. Yeah, you can just share your screen.
Okay. So how do I get this one?
1 minute. I am making you as the presenter. Okay, so you can open the Visual Studio.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. So here I have a test connection.
So you are using which version of Visual Studio, Amos?
Different players we have for different projects. So this one
Okay,
is 2010.
okay, yeah. So you can just to open the Nugget like tools.
Where is it?
Yeah, maybe package manager. I think you can go to package
Uh,
manager settings.
yeah, not this
Okay, I think I don't know. This here we can
one.
configure
Yeah.
this one. Yeah, maybe you can close
So
this
we
one also, and then you can. So I think in the last
setting.
option, yeah, you can click on the settings. So here, right? So you have the option to add. So the name and source values there, right? So
So I
maybe
need to give the URL here.
yeah, maybe you don't need to add. You can just copy that one. Like I have posted something in the chat, right? You can copy that one,
Let me see. Okay. Chat.
and the name and source you have to provide, and then you have to click on add.
Okay. Name. What is the name?
Maybe the .NET Share library. That is just for your reference only. Maybe from the Azure
Okay.
artifacts we are referring this feed or something. Okay. So already the nugget.org is already added. So you can click on add.
So do you have this one already published?
No. I don't have anything. We don't have any library yet, right? But anyway, so it will allow you to add, and then maybe when so in here onwards, right? You have the
Hmm.
two sources. So basically, if you're trying to search any kind of library, so first it will search in the nugget.org. If it is not found there, then it will search in the second feed also, which is our Azure artifact. Okay,
Okay.
so for example
Hmm.
here I am pushing some kind of library, so that one also you can consuming it, and then you can adding as the reference in your own project. Okay, so similar
Okay.
way you can add many number of feed here, like it's not only the two, right? So by default we will be having the public repository, public registry, the naked.org. So if you want something the private one, you can add as here just mentioning the name and source, and you can add any number of package feeds, so based on our requirement.
Okay. So if I am going to create like a new solution, right? Like on the new solution, I can refer to this one, and then that will build whatever the project we have on the artifact, right?
No. For example, right? So this is the Visual Studio configuration. Okay. So for
Mhm.
example, even if you are creating a new solution, so that if you are searching for any library, right, it will look up from the two sources as well. So it's not like
Right.
for this is only for the particular solution. This is the configuration of the Visual Studio, the tool itself.
Hmm.
Okay.
So we can refer those artifact
Yeah.
within the solution.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, so currently we don't have any library, but similar way
Right.
maybe if there is any class library, right, if you're having the 10 peoples, so maybe otherwise, right, you have to share it through the mail only. You have to zip the library, and then you have to send it over the mail or the shared drive only, you can do that. But that's not the easy way, right? So every time you have to build, and then you have to provide the nugget package. So instead of that,
Hmm.
you can create the feed in the Azure artifacts, and then once the code is you have pushed it, right, so during the build pipeline, after the build is successful, it will update the package feed there. Okay, maybe it will push the library there, and whoever having the access to the particular feed, so they can download in their Visual Studio. So it is just as like other nugget repository, how they
Hmm.
are searching, right? So similar way they can easily do that one.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, yeah. So I'm just taking the control. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So currently, right, so we have created the feed, and so for example, restore packages, nugget package manager, find a package you want to use, copy the, yeah, I think once we have completed this setup, right, so we have to provide the name and then source, and after that once that is completed, we have to we have to run this command. So this is to restore the package, I guess. I think currently, right, so they are showing the example for n unit library. So this is for writing the unit test case, right? So similar, like, so for example, our library name is like .NET shared library. You have to provide like install package .NET shared library, so that it will search in the two sources as well. Okay.
Mhm.
And then maybe the .NET, they are showing something yeah, this is for the nugget. um, I think from the CS project or the solution file also, we have to add this one. So for example, right, in the, yeah, in your source file also you have to edit like this one, like this is the place we are referring it. Okay. And then we have to run this .NET restore interactive, and then publish package. So this one also, yeah, maybe you can instead of maybe pushing from Azure DevOps, you can push to the repository from your local machine also by just running this command. So you got it right. So for
Mhm.
example,
Yeah.
the earlier we are just seeing the example for reusing the library in other project. Okay. So in some scenarios, you can build the library in your local machine, and then you can push it to the feed also. So at the time, what you have to do is like you have to provide the API key and all, API key and all. You should do that. But in those scenarios, right, we won't be pushing it from your local machine. We will be running from the pipeline only. Okay. So from the pipeline, we will be check out the particular repository code, and after that we will be restore the maybe the packages, and we will run the build, and then finally we will be publishing it to the repository as well. Okay, that particular feed. Okay. So for example, right, maybe you can consider like this is the one this is one pipeline. Okay. So I'm just naming it like shared library, and for currently I'm choosing the Azure pipelines, and agent specification is like VS 2017 and Windows 2016 server. Okay. But so for example, my source code, right, my source code is the targeting 2.2 framework. For example, here uh, in the CS project file, so uh, my application that is following the .NET Core 2.2 framework. Okay. So that to
Mhm.
build the class library, I need to have the 2.2 SDK. Okay. But if the 2.2 SDK is not available in any one of the agent machine, right, so that definitely it will fail. So that either we have to update the version here, or otherwise we have to install the 2.2 in our local machine or in our self-hosted agent machine. So you understood, right? So we have the
Yeah.
class library. Yeah. So that is developed from the 2.2 framework. Okay. So for example, this is our library, and I'm just having some model file. So anyway, right. So for the class library, we don't need much thing. I'm just going to build. So just like the compiling should be successful. That's it. Apart from that, we don't have anything criteria here. So for example, the next one is I'm creating the pipeline. So that is already created one, so otherwise we can create a new one also. Like I'm creating a new pipeline, and maybe we can just go with classic editor for now. And my code is there in Azure repos git, and my repository is the shared repository, and I'm choosing the master. So I think there is only one branch master, I'm choosing it. Okay. And another one is yeah, so here we have chosen this one, and then the pipeline. So currently Azure pipelines Windows 2019, maybe currently it is chosen. So this is the agent specification. Okay. And then here the agent job, like I have to add the command, right? So for example, I'm just searching .NET Core. Okay. So because, right, my application also following the .NET Core framework, so I'm just searching, but by default, right, it will based on the source code we have chosen, it will provide some suggestion. So that's why the .NET Core is coming into the first search result. Okay. I'm clicking on the .NET. So okay. So here, right, so there are many commandings are there, maybe the many command option is there. So first one is what we should do is like we need to run the .NET restore. Okay, so that I'm choosing the .NET restore. Okay, and here our path to directories, I think under the shared it is there, and after that yeah, so this is just like a restore only, right? So we don't need anything apart from that. And then I'm clicking on the next one. So this is the .NET build. So that one also inside the shared repository. And after that, one more thing is for publish. So we have restored the packages. We have built the class library, and here we will be having the new package with extension file. And then here we need to publish it actually. Okay, the nugget push. So at this place, so nugget push, and here we have to provide the target feed location where they want to push the particular nugget package. Okay, so in this scenario I am choosing the .NET shared library. Okay, so for example it will automate, it will choosing this location when the particular build is completed successfully, right? At the end of this build it will push the library also to this particular Azure artifact. Okay, so far you are good, right,
Mhm.
Amos?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just clicking on save on queue.
So your self-hosted
Yeah,
application, what do you call self-hosted? Is it running there on your
no,
local
the
machine?
self-hosted agent machine, right? So for example, here we have chosen the Microsoft hosted agent machine. So for example, when you can see, right, for example, in the pipeline, I'm choosing the Azure Pipelines agent pool, and under that there are many agent, Microsoft hosted agent is there. So and they will be providing, I think the 30 hours per month actually. They will provide free quota. Okay, so if we are exceeding that one, so that our bill will be fail. But the only the requirement, right? So for building the class, this class library, I need to have the 2.2 SDK should be installed in any one of the server. Okay, if it is not installed, then definitely my bill will be fail. So at the time maybe I can choose, maybe I can choose hosted agent, right? I have maybe configured one agent pool, so that one we can try to use that one. So currently we can just try to use the Microsoft hosted agent machine.
So
So
on the other day, when we are doing the demo, we did the default, not the
yeah,
Azure OS,
yeah.
right?
So because right inside the default only we have configured the self-hosted agent machine. So for to verify that one, so you can go to project settings and agent pools, and you have the Azure pipelines and two, right? And here
Yeah.
you can see like
Oh,
desktop.
got it.
This one is online. But
Mhm.
I don't know, maybe I didn't start any service basically. For example, what I need to do is like to use that one, I need to go to C and then agents, because I am not configuring as the service, right? So for every time I need to run this agent. Okay, but I don't know, but anyway here it
Is
is
it still
online
running
only.
on the back? Yeah, background somewhere it
Yeah,
is
yeah,
running.
yeah. So that maybe it's online, right? So that maybe it should use that one. So we'll see. Maybe we'll try to change it to default and then we'll check. Okay, and then the pipeline. So I think it is failed. 14 seconds, 93. Okay. So here the error, right? Okay. So currently it is running. So currently, right, so here when we are doing the restore, it is failing. So when we can see the this thing, right, the error message, it is showing like .NET Core SDK runtime 2.2 and 3.0 are now end of life and have been removed from all hosted agents. Okay. If you are using these SDK runtimes on hosted agents, kindly upgrade to new version which are not EOL, or else use .NET task to install the required version. Okay, so they are using us to install the required version. Okay, maybe we will try. So now you understood this information, right, Amos? Like the
Yeah, yeah.
2.2 and 3.0 is end of life, so that they have removed in all the hosted agent machine, and maybe they are asking us to maybe upgrade our application, or otherwise we can use the particular .NET version using the use .NET task. Okay, maybe I didn't use the .NET task before. Maybe we'll try this one. Mm, use .NET.
I think like it came up on the top.
Yeah, yeah. Use .NET Core, right? So I'm just adding, and maybe right. So this task needs to be run very first time. Okay, before running the restore and all. So for example, use .NET Core SDK packages to install. Okay, maybe yeah, I need SDK, right? Because we are going to build and all. The runtime means it will be helpful for maybe running the application. For restoring the build and the packages and all, we need the SDK with runtime also.
Mhm.
Okay, here I am just saying like 2.2 install latest and major version. I am just specifying like 2.2.x. Okay.
That's what by default it is showing, but why is it complaining about 2.2 and 3.0?
Because
Those are
they
all
have.
end of life, right?
Yeah, because right, so currently I don't know what is the latest .NET Core version, but maybe when they are so even this project, right, I have created maybe the 2 years before. Okay, at the time 2.2 is the latest one. So when they are maybe they are releasing the new maybe the breaking one, right, the 3.0 4.0, because there are many
Mhm.
difference between the both two versions, so that they are not giving the support to the older version. So maybe because right they are currently at the 5.0 something, so that they won't give the support maybe for the many version, right, because they just evolved from the last 2 to 3 years only. The .NET Core, right, it is just evolved, so
Mhm.
that maybe to mature, right, so it will take some time. I think currently they may be matured something like from the 5.0 something, they will go like 5.0.1 to 3 something. But the starting time, right, because the .NET framework to .NET Core is the very very big change, because the cross platform support, and then there are many built-in feature they have added with compared to .NET framework, right. I think the .NET Core would be somewhat easier, and you can easily compare with the Java also. Like whatever the Java is providing as the future, the same thing we will get something in the .NET Core core also. Like in the .NET framework, right, I think that is not the open source platform. Like the .NET, the Microsoft team only, they need to build all the framework and then they need to release it to the customers. But the .NET Core is,
Right.
I think they have a open source platform, and yeah, because there are many releases, right, so that they might be uh, maybe they're releasing the older version maybe. Yeah, we'll just try, I think. Okay, like 2.2.x, and
Mhm.
then after that we will try to restore that one. Yeah, that is why they are providing this option also, right? If that is the bottleneck, we can install the particular version, and after that, yeah, maybe we can try to do that one. Try to build the
Mm.
library, the restore and build and all.
Okay.
I think this task is completed. I think it is running the restore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think specify a project or solution file. The current directory does not contain a project or solution file. Maybe Amos, you can just guess what could be the error now. So here
Where do we
there's,
need to specify?
yeah, for example, so this is my repository structure. Okay, like this is the shared folder. Okay, so it will first
Mm-hmm.
check out, and then it will try to run the .NET the restore commands, right, in the same shared folder. Okay, because in this folder, right, in this folder level, we don't have the class project, the project file and all, right. So if you have the solution and the CS project, so there only it will do the restore and all. So you got it right. So for example, currently it will try to run the .NET restore command at the shared folder level.
Okay.
So you got it right, because in this folder level we don't have any solution file or the CS the project file. So within the CS project file only we are mentioning the this one and all, right, uh, like the
So
dependency
this.
information.
Mm-hmm. So
Okay, so
this path you need to specify the NRT shared
yeah,
common.
yeah. So we have to specify here. Like I'm just editing this one. I don't know. Maybe we will be providing. So here, right, path to projects. I can just to provide this one and star.cs project. I don't know this will work. I think star dot. I think the project extension is cs dot project, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so for example, in repos. So this is sl, yeah, dot cs project. Okay. So I'm clicking on save and continue.
Are you from Chennai, Salon?
No, I am from Salem, so that is interior Tamil Nadu.
Salem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you know?
Yeah, I am from Chennai.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
So you are recently migrated to USA or the
No,
long?
I'm here for last 20 years.
Oh, okay, okay. I think your families and all here in Chennai.
Yeah, my mom is there.
Oh,
Mom, my
okay.
brothers.
Yeah, I think here heavy rain in Chennai. I think.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. Like, if you are in Chennai, how is that?
Yeah, in which area they are?
My mom and brother are in Mambalam, so they
Oh,
evacuated and they moved to Porur. Porur, my uncle is there, so
oh,
they moved there
yeah.
for time being.
I think now, I think today it would be good. Something, I think the raining and all it will stop, I guess, almost. I think the yesterday
Yeah,
and
at
all,
least by
but
the end of the day,
mm,
it should be okay, I guess.
yeah,
But there are some, but in the house in the complex, we didn't get any rain or water inside stagnated, but
okay.
the electricity was the issue.
Oh, yeah,
And the Tinagar, Mambalam, those areas are like highly affected
yeah, yeah.
by this flooding.
Yeah, I think every time, right? I think the rain means, I think the every year, the December and November and all, at least
Hmm.
once something we are facing this issue in Chennai. At least, yeah.
Yeah. No files match the search pattern, so we need to change the
Mm,
patterns.
yeah, correct. Here, pipelines. Maybe what we can do, right? Maybe shared. We can provide the full file path here.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I think here, right? The shared under the shared file. Okay, we have the solution, but under the rt.share.common, we have the common.cs project. So I think we'll see this will work. I guess we'll see. I think for installing the .NET Core 2.2, right? I think for every time it will take some time for installation, right? Since for this reason only, maybe they might be going with the self-hosted agent machine, so that we can have a installed one. It will be already installed, right? So that we don't need to use this task. So if I'm already installed
Right.
2.2, so
Hmm.
that so at least if it is taking 1 minute or something, so we don't need to do that, so that we can save the build time actually.
Mm. Got it. Oops, failed again.
Again, no file matches. I don't know. Maybe they are expecting solution file or CS project. I think mostly they will expect project file only in the .NET. Even I have used very long back. Maybe we can remove this one. Hmm. Okay, I think the path is, yeah, you can use wildcard example. Okay, we can use this pattern. So you got it right.
So
So I think
yeah, you need to
whatever,
do like star.cs project
yeah,
at the end.
yeah, whatever it is there, right? So I think it will take. I think anyway we have the only one project, right? So that's not a problem.
Hmm. So what is the end result on this one? So on the of this pipeline?
So at this pipeline, right? So for example, it will restore the package and then it will build the class library, and then it will be pushed that the NuGet package, right? It will be pushed to the Azure artifact, so that you can see the final output here. So from here you can reference the nugget from your Visual Studio.
Hmm. Okay. So when have you started working on this Azure DevOps?
So this one, right? Maybe the in my first company itself started almost at the time it was named like Visual Studio Team Services, and yeah, at the time, right? So now only they have changed to Azure DevOps. So earlier the name
Mm.
was something like Visual Studio Team Services, and at the time, yeah, I was used to .NET framework, and after that I have used .NET Core, and currently using in my last project I have used Java and with Bamboo and GitLab
Mm.
also. But I think currently I'm not fully using the Microsoft Azure, but the concepts everything is same, right? So I think when we are a DevOps engineer we need to use the multiple tools. So that's why I'm currently using the GitLab, and even I'm not using any CA tool also now. So because of the cyber security, so I'm working as the cyber security. So
Mm.
there is no tools, anything. So just a security related thing only. I think it is started
Interesting.
working. Yeah, yeah, right. At least the .NET restore
So that
step
don't,
is
yeah,
completed.
right.
So I think similar
But
way,
it
right?
might be the same thing path. This might be,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. So we need to update the same path in the all the places. So here .NET restore, okay, and then .NET build. Here also it is expecting the CS project only, and then the .NET push. Okay, I think it will always take in the dot new package the extension file. So can click save and continue. Okay, I think now no packages matched the search pattern. I think the build is successful. I don't know maybe where it has copied dot new package. Okay, I think this is copying it as the DLL, I guess. Restore completed. Maybe whenever we are installing, right, Amos, so at the time it
Mm.
will be extension would be DLL or new package. Uh, I don't know. Sometimes we will be using the DLL also, right? The extension should be
Yeah, but
DLL.
I don't know, like when you compile an application, it will be like a DLL or an exe.
Hmm.
But when you are going to store it on the artifact, I am not sure.
Okay.
It's going to put like a new package.
Okay. Maybe we will just try to orbit like DLL. Maybe in the meantime we can just search it like.
Yeah, normally the class files when you are compiling, it should be a DLL.
Hmm. Yeah.
When it is like a console application or like the Windows
Hmm.
application, it will be like a exe. Even for the
Hmm.
web, it should be DLL.
Yeah. But sometimes, right, even I am also seeing that one, but maybe the new package also there, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was not
Mm,
sure. Like the Nougat package, whether it is going to be like a new package, I haven't seen those kind
mm,
of stuff.
yeah,
But once you download it, right? Like, and then when you are adding on to the reference, then if you go and see on the bin folder, it should be like a DLL or the, yeah, in
yeah,
99.99% it will be DLL.
yeah, correct, yeah. So here, what they are doing, they are doing .NET Restore, .NET Build, and then they need to pack it, and then they need to stage it to staging directory, and after that only they have to do the push. I think from our side only it's mistake. So what we should do is like we have to in between, right after the build, we have to pack it. So then only, so when we are doing the packing only, the DLL is converting into the new package, I guess.
Oh, on the pack. Okay, and
Yeah,
then when you are pushing, then the push will be the DLL.
yeah. No, when we are doing the push, at the time the packaged version is there, right, the new package,
Mm-hmm.
so that will be
Mm-hmm.
pushed. So for example, here restore build, right? So in between we
Right.
have to add one more command, like .NET Core, and here we can say, yeah, this is pack, and then yeah, I think CS project to pack, and then build configuration, and here they are saying, I think it's just like artifact staging directory, so that it's fine. Like CS project tree and build configuration, build staging directory. Okay. And then .NET push also, I think we can leave it like NUPKG, right? Earlier it was
Mm-hmm.
NUPKG.
Yeah.
Okay.
So on the artifact, it will be NUPKG, but on when you are downloading it from the Visual Studio, somewhere it interprets and then reads from the package, the individual DLL within the package.
Mm,
Is it the right statement?
no, I think for example, right, as you earlier said, when we are doing the build, right, we are getting the DLL, okay, and after
Mm-hmm.
that they are packaging the DLL so that we are getting the new package, the packaged version of DLL we are getting, and after
Yeah.
that we are pushing it to the Azure artifact, and then we are retrieving as like a new package, and after that I think our solution will convert as the DLL.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
So from the artifact, it is still going to stay as new package, and then
Mm.
from the Visual Studio, when you're referencing that new package, then it converts internally,
Yeah.
right? And then
Yeah.
reads only the DLL within the package and then puts
Yeah.
it on the reference.
Yeah. So mostly, right, the packaging, right, I think from the .NET world, they are using the package something, PKG, new package. But mostly in the
Mm,
Java and all, right, we will just do the zip actually. In the Java and other thing, we will just do the
mm,
zip, and so that, right, in between no one can't maybe update any of the code base, even they can't detect anything. So when we are transferring in the zipped mode, okay, but if you are
mm.
maybe the pushing in the DLL, right, they can download it, they can use it in their application, right? So that's why during the transit they are packaging it. But in the other world, right, so they will do the just a zip, but here in the .NET, right, they have the own mechanism for packaging with the PKG extension.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I think the .NET
Yeah.
push also successful. So we can see, yeah, so here you can see, right, the version
Mhm.
101 is pushed here. So
Right.
when you can search the shared common library, right? you can see, you can, the 101 version will be coming into your search list. Maybe if I am running the once again, right, so at the time also 101 will be there, but you can update the version also here, like in the CS project here 101, right, you can update to
Mm-hmm.
102. So for example, I am updating as 102. So now it will update as the one more version, like after running this one, right, it will update as the 102.
Mm-hmm.
So you got it right. So
Yep.
yeah.
So what do you have on the solution? The .NET code.
The .NET code, right? So when I was a .NET core developer, right, I just thought to create some sample project, but after that I didn't started anything. Uh,
Okay.
Yeah, but it is somewhat the best practice actually, the dependency inversion and all, right? At the time,
Mm-hmm.
very popular in the .NET Core 2.x framework. So that how
Mm-hmm.
to maybe when we are working in the microservice framework, right? Like how we can inject the service, everything. So in my earlier project, it was very good. So that to try to simulate that one, I have created that one. But after that, I didn't started anything because I moved to Java, right? So after that I have left
Mm-hmm.
this one actually. But anyway, I think
Okay.
even it's just having the models only, right, apart from that nothing, any logic.
Okay.
Okay, so here you can see, right, I think it is updated as the 102.
Yeah.
I thought like it will create as the one more version, but it is overriding the existing one. Maybe why the previous version are not coming. I don't know, maybe for every time it is overriding, I guess, from what.
Yeah, that's the problem I was talking earlier, right? Like, so if a developer, if a new developer, who the developer worked on it, he
Hmm.
left the company, right? And then 2 years later, someone else is coming,
Hmm.
and then by the time like that version is not there, then
Hmm.
the new developer is screwed. So
Yeah.
he will not have the DLL to compile the application. Then.
Hmm. But I think Amos, so there is some setting will be there. I think we can have the
Mhm.
previous version also. Maybe one more time. I will run the build once again.
Okay. So there might be like a not to overwrite something.
But I thought like the earlier the 101 is there, right? So after changing the
Mhm.
version 102 came. But if I'm running now, I think the earlier there is some settings actually, Amos. Okay, I think in the settings are somewhere enable package retention, minimum number of versions per package 20 days to keep. Okay, we can just do that, and then
So now maybe to 1.0.2 might stay.
hmm. But anyway, the 1.0.2 is already there. I don't know, maybe if I'm changing the 103, then we can see the
Mhm.
package retention. But earlier I didn't set up this one, right? So that it is always keeping the latest one alone.
Right.
Yeah. So I think yeah, there will be option because otherwise, right, we will be losing the previous libraries and all. So I
Correct.
think you can just choose what is the maybe what is the one you want actually, 101, 102. So something even, right, for example, if you are searching the Newtons of JSON, so there you will be having the ability to choose the particular version 101 something like. So
Mhm.
so I think similar way, yeah, here also we can do that one. Okay.
But normally when they are exposing on the nugget, they don't show like multiple versions. Like maybe 1 or 2 versions might be there.
Oh, okay.
But if you want to go like a 2 years or 3 years before
Hmm. Yeah.
version which that project might be using, so that might not be there.
Oh, at least I think last five may be there. Yeah, I think they
Yeah.
also will be having something. Yeah, the last five stable one they might be, but maybe
Mm,
that may not be the maybe compatible for the older .NET framework. So at the time it won't be compatible. So
right.
the latest version and then the previous the old framework it won't be compatible.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Amos. Yeah, maybe the time also around nine. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
nine. Yeah.
Last night also too late and I'm
Yeah.
thinking of
Yeah.
sleeping.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Amos.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Thank
talk
you.
talk to them. Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Yeah. Good night. Bye.